So they may consider any practices which lead to individual empowerment to be dangerous. Hey guys, I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so that you can magnetize your ideal life. If you want to learn more about sexual mastery, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you stay notified when I release new videos. So I've had a lot of people asking me recently if the microcosmic orbit is a dangerous practice. There's a lot of rumors going around that there's dangers in activating the microcosmic orbit. You know, some people say that you shouldn't begin working with the microcosmic orbit until you're at a very advanced level of practice because you can harm yourself with it. So in my experience, personally, I believe that the microcosmic orbit is a very safe and very foundational practice, meaning that it's something that you can begin to work with right away, regardless of your skill level. The microcosmic orbit is the two main energy channels in the body. So in the acupuncture system, there's hundreds of these meridians in the body. And the main channels are the governor channel and the conception channel, which make up the microcosmic orbit. The governor runs from the perineum up the back of the body, over the top of the head, ends at the roof of the mouth. The conception vessel also begins the perineum at the front of the body and ends at the tip of the tongue. You place the tongue against the roof of the mouth, connects these two channels, creates this circuit, this complete circuit. So this channel represents our core yin-yang flow of energy, up the back, down the front, and it can actually flow in both directions, but typically people teach it running up the back and down the front. Another thing to be clear about is that, you know, people also ask me, how do I know if my microcosmic is open? If my microcosmic orbit is open? If you're alive, then your microcosmic orbit is open. If it wasn't flowing, then you would not be alive, because the microcosmic orbit is one of the what's called the 8 extraordinary vessels. So these are deep acupuncture channels that feed into the 12 more superficial organ channels. So the organ channels are the main channels that acupuncturists are working with. These and they're connected to the main vital organs, and they're closer to the surface of the body, so you can manipulate them with needles. But the 8 extraordinary vessels are much deeper, much more core channels, and so most of them cannot be manipulated with needles. The microcosmic orbit is an exception. It's closer to the surface of the body, and there is points along it that you can manipulate. The 8 extraordinary vessels they're sort of an interface between the energy that's coming from the source. You know, in the Tao system, it arises through the Dantian, through the Ming Men, and then it's distributed to the 8 extras, and this represents our core patterns of up and down, left and right, the arms and legs, these core channels. So it's our fundamental patterns, and then from here it splits off and expresses itself in more complex ways through the 12 acupuncture meridians of the organ system. The purpose of working with the microcosmic orbit is that, again, it's the fundamental pathway in the body, and this microcosmic orbit connects to all of the other meridians of the body. So it's like this deep canal that feeds all these other rivers. So if your microcosmic orbit is clear and flowing well, then your energy level is going to be a lot higher. Your entire body will be more balanced. So it's really about yin-yang balance. In our modern society, we live in a very yang society, often excess yang, in that we're always working, always doing, always out in the world trying to accomplish things. We don't spend much time connecting with our yin qualities of just passiveness, of rest, of just quiet solitude, and just, you know, having quiet time. Basically, we don't have much stillness in our lives. We're always going. So this causes us to become very unbalanced, and it's called false yang, because when true yang, you know, it expands itself to this maximum point of expansion, and then it naturally drops. It starts to fall back down. It starts to become yin. So yin becomes yang, and yang becomes yin. These are not, you know, two separate things, but they're part of one each other. You know, they're always in relation to each other. Yang exists because there is yin, so it's this polarity and this dynamic. So it's when we lose our relationship and our harmony with this dynamic that we become out of balance. So when we're always working hard, overstressed, and we're never taking time to have stillness, have quietness in our lives, we become very out of balance, and disease is manifest because we're living in an excess yang lifestyle. So this is why, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, these sorts of things arise, is because we're overworking ourselves. We're not balancing out the yin aspect. So working with the microcosmic orbit helps you to have more balance in your life. Typically when modern people learn this practice, they start to connect with yin a lot more. I've taught hundreds of people the microcosmic orbit. No one's had a problem with it, first of all, but often what I find is that when they're learning the microcosmic orbit, they feel very sleepy because this is balancing yin and yang, and most people are excess yang, they lack the yin. So it starts to connect you back with that downward movement of yin energy. It's very grounding, bringing you back into your body, back into the present moment. So it really, really balances people out learning the microcosmic orbit. One of the qualities that you'll find in your life when you begin practicing the microcosmic orbit is that you're less likely to go off into extremes. When you're getting too yang in your life, you'll naturally start to slow down, to bring your energy back within, to calm down. That's what I noticed in my life. I stopped burning myself out, and I would naturally feel more yin when I was expending my energy too much. So you'll find that you naturally balance out your yin and yang patterns because you're working with the microcosmic orbit. Another reason this is such an important practice is because for cultivating sexual energy, you need a pathway to move this energy throughout the body. Sexual energy wants space. It needs somewhere to move. And most people's bodies these days are very locked up with tension. So there's no space in the body for that sexual energy to move into. So it just shoots, for men, they just shoot this energy outward and they lose it in ejaculation. So opening the microcosmic orbit gives you this container of energy to move that sexual energy through. And because of the yin-yang dynamic of the orbit, as the sexual energy moves through the orbit, it balances, it refines it, and it distributes it through the entire body as well because it's connected to all the meridians. So it's a very balancing, very harmonizing, and in my opinion, a very fundamental, it's almost like the kindergarten level practice of Taoist internal practices. So where did this rumor of the microcosmic orbit being a dangerous practice come from? I have my own theories about this. I think a lot of it has to do with, a lot of people quote these guys who are teaching in China, and the current situation in China is that it's not, they don't really have the freedom of individuality that we have here in the Western world. China's very under government control, and it's really about the good of the collective, suppressing the individuality so that you can act for the good of the collective. And so emotional suppression and things like that are encouraged there. And so what happens is when someone starts practicing Qigong and starts opening their energy channels, they start to connect with their own individual nature, and they become very empowered as an individual. Well, this is a problem in a society that is based on suppressing the individual and fitting in with the collective. So all of the Taoist temples in China currently, the teachers, the leaders, they're appointed by the communist government, because they want to be able to control them. So they may consider any practices which lead to individual empowerment to be dangerous. So that may kind of give you more of a context about what may be happening here and where these rumors are coming from. There's also the rumor that practicing the microcosmic orbit can lead to Kundalini psychosis. And in my experience, it's a remedy for Kundalini psychosis. So I activated my Kundalini energy several years ago, and it was very out of control. I was very ungrounded. I was in a very disturbed state and having a hard time relating to the physical world. And I began practicing the microcosmic orbit, and it grounded me. Because Kundalini is this upward rise of energy, and people run into problems with it because they can't ground it. They can't get that energy to descend. What goes up must come down. So opening the microcosmic orbit, you get this upward flow of energy. You connect to the higher centers, higher intelligence, higher consciousness, but you bring it back down. The water channel in the front, this grounds that energy. So you get the yin aspect sinking back down to the earth, grounding the energy. So it balances this fire-water dynamic. And so in my experience, it's very balancing for if you're experiencing Kundalini symptoms. And in the end, no practice is 100% safe. Nothing in this world is 100% safe. You can walk out your door and get hit by a car. You never really know. But I don't think that you should let fear keep you from growing yourself. Practice it, try it out. I have a guided video of the microcosmic orbit on my YouTube channel. You can check that out. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. Have a great day, my friends.